More than 500 million people were pushed into extreme poverty last year as they paid for health care costs out of pocket during the height of the pandemic. Meanwhile, CNN reports that food is more expensive than it's been in decades. Dining out has gone up 5.8%, marking the largest 12-month increase since January 1982. And if you're looking to save money by cooking at home, grocery prices have also reached record highs, as we've discussed at length on the show. Democratic strategist and owner of JC Strategies, Jennifer Holdsworth-Karp, and Republican strategist Malik Abdul join us now to discuss. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having us.
So, Jennifer, obviously people are very frustrated with inflation, with the the increasing high costs of things they need to buy. And I think there's a sense that the Biden administration doesn't really have a plan to deal with this, or at least there's a sense that they're not reacting to it with enough vigor, with enough concern. Is the government out of touch with what working people actually need to feed their families and to drive their cars, et cetera?
Yes, unequivocally. The messaging has been really problematic on this. We've had a lot of high-minded conversation about what the economic indicators are and which sectors are doing better and Wall Street. And while that is all true, completely 100% true, one of the main reasons why we have such significant inflation right now is because of the actual demand on the economy. Wages are rising. But to not acknowledge the pain that the majority of country is still feeling at the gas pump, in the food store, when they're out to eat, when they're buying things for Christmas for their kids, that's unfortunately a surefire loser in terms of messaging. So while all the economic indicators are true, I think that we need a huge push to acknowledge what people are feeling about the economy right now. And I think that messaging has been lost.
And Malik, the last time we saw significant price increases, for a sustained period of time in late 1970s, early 1980s, the response from both parties was to just cut the legs out from under the labor movement and basically slash wages and drive up unemployment. Do you sense people within the kind of Republican Party sensing an opportunity here to rehash that strategy, or do you think that Republicans would have a different approach this time?
I think we're living in a different time now. The environment is totally different. And for Republicans, I think most of what Republicans have been doing in reference to the discussion about the economy and inflation and all of that, they've really been talking about how certain government policies have encouraged people not to go back to work and things like that. But I don't think that we will have a repeat of what we saw in the 70s. What's happening now with inflation and even being able to deal with the pandemic, I think I always talk about the realities of governing. And that's what we're dealing with in the Biden administration. And it's a conversation that's really missed far too often because and even in media, we lead to people to believe that government does things or performs in ways that it really never does. So in response to the pandemic, there was a lot of discussions about the pandemic playbook that Barack Obama left Donald Trump. I don't know if anyone asked the Biden administration, are they following any of that? But that was one of the things that Donald Trump was criticized for. There's a lot of things that we learn about these type of disasters and pandemics in real time. And the hope is that we actually learn from them, not to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. But I think that a lot of people are having a difficult time trying to defend the Biden administration. But really, as a Republican, from my perspective, I see it as there's only so much Joe Biden can do anyway, because that's how the system is set up.
And Jennifer, going back to crippling medical debt, which is just horrible, people going through difficult illness, difficult times in their life, and then get saddled with these unpayable bills. That is, in large part, a problem because the prices in the medical industry, knowing what you're paying for a doctor's visit, for a procedure, for a kind of therapy is so shrouded in just absolute mystery. An insurance company's going to pay it, or maybe they're not, or maybe you're going to pay it, maybe you're going to pay part of it. You don't go in having any idea, and then sometimes you just get this, eye-popping number on a sheet of paper in the mail. But there, none of our kind of attempts to make healthcare more affordable have really, to my mind, grappled with this key problem, which is that the price is just so disguised, and there's no incentive to make it more understandable to you, the customer, you the patient, rather.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a microcosm of the bigger problem is let's say, Robbie, that there was complete transparent pricing, which there should be, and was gutted out of the original ACA by the Republicans back in 2010. Let's say there was that full transparency. If you needed some life-saving measure, if you saw the cost beforehand, whether it was, $150,000 or $15, and you don't have the money to pay that, you're still going to wind up in the crippling debt in order to save your life. And that's the real root of the problem here. And there's been a lot of debate and consternation over whether Medicare for All would be the silver bullet to that bankruptcy problem in America. I'm not convinced, with all of the problems with Medicare in general, that would actually fix the problem. But we're having the wrong conversation, right? Whether or not it's going to cost $750,000 to have that surgery or not isn't going to be determinative on whether you're actually in bankruptcy after you receive it. So we need to back up the conversation here to 50,000 feet and say, why are we pricing things the way that we're pricing them, and how are we going to address it getting paid, whether you're surprised by the cost or not?
A recent ABC News Ipsos poll found nearly 70% of Americans say they disapprove of how President Biden is handling inflation along party lines. 94% of Republicans said they disapprove, while 54% of Democrats said the same thing. Among independent voters, 71% disapprove. Malik, why are people so surprised at the price increases that we're seeing, given that we had a economic collapse throughout 2020? And everybody kept saying, when the economy opens back up, you're going to have supply chain problems, and you're going to have an immense amount of demand, jumping into the economy, meeting these broken supply chains, and so you're going to have some price hikes. I guess, does it not matter whether or not you can see it coming because it's hitting you every day? That's what you take away from it.
No, I think part of it is that all of this was really wrapped into a political conversation. So few of us, during this entire pandemic, so few of us were having honest and open conversations about how government actually works. And so for those who supported Biden and Biden himself, there was a lot of overpromising. So all of the anxiety that was built into the opposition to Donald Trump, yes, it was because of things that Donald Trump himself did, he did personally, but also what was happening at the time. No one in our lifetime, in our generation, had to deal with stores being empty, businesses being closed, schools being closed, not being able to get our PPE from China. No one had to deal with that. So there was a lot of anxiety that people felt. And so they heaped that upon Donald Trump, even though, again, there were things that Donald Trump himself did. The same thing is happening now with Biden. So all of the anxiety that people are dealing with, it really doesn't matter if a president is responsible for it or not. Biden is president. So he gets the most of that angst that people have around the country, because all presidents do. I won't ban, block or complain about every single thing that Biden did, because, again, I realize he actually has limitations. He's responsible for some things for sure, but Biden is actually limited as president as far as what he can do as far as the supply chain and many other things that people are feeling very anxious about.
Right. Yeah, Malik, Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
We'll have more Rising right after this. Stay with us.